Hello, friends, and welcome to Brainworms Podcast, the podcast that rocks your body right and makes you an omelet in the morning. I'm Joe.
I'm David, and intrigued.
I'm Kaine, and I'm not intrigued.
And I'm Chris.
And unfortunately, the Halloween spooky time is over, and that's sad.
Well, Halloween is over, but it's always spooky.
That's true.
Baby.
Every day is Halloween for me.
David, were you trying to say something sexual?
No, Joe. Why would you think that?
Oh my, I think I'm getting the vapors.
The vapors.
Also, if you guys didn't watch Over the Garden Wall for Halloween, you are neglecting yourselves. Like, do a little self-care.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours of your life. Listen to this and then go watch all of that.
Yeah, it's
What is
so
it?
good.
Over the Garden Wall? Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reflecting that our last few episodes were by reputable authors with actual credentials as writers who wrote well, arguably. Lovecraft kind of goes either way.
Wait, are you telling me that we've got like an unmitigated disaster book?
Oh yeah, I thought that it was time to
Return.
go dig up some wet, hot trash.
Go back to our Princess Teresa roots.
Yeah. So I dug into the worst rated books on Goodreads and it uncovered a mystery, actually. I uncovered a writer called Robert Stanek, who, again, is one of the worst rated writers on Goodreads consistently. All of his many self-published ebooks.
Should we make a bad read section of WeGiveYouBrainworms.com?
I think that's just the show.
Right, but I mean just a list.
But
for
yes,
him.
we should.
We should. Yeah, that would be fun.
Because there's
Also,
Goodreads.
How many terrible books do you have to write and get reviewed before you just say to yourself, like, I can't write. I need to pursue something else in life.
It depends. Like, some people just never stop and make a whole career out of it.
Yeah.
And then there are people like, oh shit, what's his name that wrote Eye of Argon?
Oh yeah, that guy. I can't think of his name either.
He's a journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went on to journalism. He may be dead now.
He might be, because he faded into obscurity, so he goes off the grid around, I want to say, the mid-2000s, I think.
Right.
There stopped being any references to him doing anything, so...
Jim Thies.
Thank you.
That's right. Ghost of Jim Thies is watching over us all.
Protecting our children from back titties.
Yes.
He died on March 26th, 2002.
Oh, no way. Well, may the angels carry him to his rest.
And I suppose there are worse ways to lodge yourself into the public consciousness for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
True facts.
Of course, this is now just the Eye of Argon cast. But apparently he did go on to enjoy his quasi-celebrity, so good for him.
And if you'd like to hear more, you can check out our episode about the Eye of Argon. There are
There's
three
multiple.
of them.
Yeah.
Our Patreon subscribers of, I want to say, $10 and up, probably next month once I get done assembling it, will actually have access to a complete reading of the Eye of Argon from beginning to end, all in one episode. So,
Booyah.
but we're not talking about Jim Thies today, although I'm a little... What the fuck, Chris?
Is that your alarm to wake up and come record the episode? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Well done.
Damn it.
Can I talk about Robert Stanek, or are we just gonna piss
Please
into
tell
each
me
other's
about.
mouths for the rest of the day?
I mean, that comes after. That's a long-established tradition.
It's true. That's how we celebrate. But yeah, Robert Stanek, one of the lowest rated writers on Goodreads, which I thought was interesting because this podcast is what it is. So I did more research. He's very well reviewed on Amazon, to the point that some people suggest he's doing some kind of sock puppet astroturfing.
That makes more sense than him just being really, really good, but people on Goodreads don't recognize it.
Yeah. His author's bio, I'm not going to read all of it because it's lengthy, but his authors His author's bio on Amazon says, one of our most respected authors, says the audio bookstore. Breathtaking stories, vivid characters, and beautifully crafted worlds. Robert Stanek is the pen name of William R. Stanek. That's not really a pen name as such. Okay.
No.
Especially if his middle name is Robert.
Yeah, that's just his name. Whose more than 20 books of both fiction and nonfiction have been translated into 57 languages. Sold
Which
nearly...
I really want to know, like, how easy is it for a book to just be translated?
You just pay a translator.
Yeah, basically.
Sold nearly 20 million copies worldwide and been published or distributed. David, you and really any of you, if you know more of publishing than I do, tell me if this is a sensible thing. And been published and or distributed by nearly every major U.S. publisher over the past 30 years.
Well, that is a little odd.
Yeah, I can find no evidence of him being published in any format other than self-publishing through Amazon.com.
Wait, this is his bio.
Yes.
So none of this has to be true.
No, I mean, it should be. Like, I feel like there should be some standard. But no, nobody's fact-checking it except for weirdos that record podcasts.
But yeah, I don't know about that whole... multiple, typically in my understanding, and I've never been published, so I don't know, but I would think that if you got published with one house,
you would sign a contract.
And they would maybe want to keep you.
Yeah.
Like, you think of big names in literature, and typically they're connected with a publishing house, and just the one.
Yeah.
So that's bizarre.
That's a little weird.
He just kept shopping himself. Like, that's actually not in your favor.
No, you're doing yourself a disservice. Robert's forefather, not sure what that means in this context. The Pulitzer Prize-winning author and National Book Award recipient Wallace Stegner called Robert one of the most versatile and naturally talented writers he ever met. The most
naturally talent writers?
Yeah. The future dean of science fiction, fantasy writers, and that future is now. Couple points.
Okay, first, I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Google AI that is been tasked with writing. So it went out and started looking at all of the internet's everything.
It kind of does sound AI generated. Like, I'm not saying that's what it is. Please don't sue us for slander or libel.
Alleged.
Yeah. But it does feel that way a little bit, like it's AI generated. This person does not have a Wikipedia page. The encyclopedia that anyone can edit. At least when I checked last night, Robert Stanek does not have one. I find that suspicious.
It is interesting. I mean, I guess there's a possibility that he had a wiki page and just put up a bunch of just fabrications about himself. I can think of a particular band that did that at one point. And the fact that anyone can edit it would mean that anyone else could go in and just get rid of his wild claims about himself or change, And so maybe he just took it down. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Well, yeah. I mean, William R. Stanek did a lot of writing for Microsoft.
Ah, that must be it.
I wonder if it's the same person.
It is. It
Is
is.
it?
It's the same guy.
So he has literally been published by multiple publishing houses and translated into multiple languages.
Oh.
For How to Microsoft.
That's... I'm on to you, Bob
crafty.
Stanek.
You did it, Kaine. You solved it, Holmes.
You cracked the code.
It took a minute. I had to plug my phalanges into this weird box. I think you guys called it a computer.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
And then I have to connect I don't know why that hose is there that I have to connect to my junk, but I connected the hose to my junk.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important.
The plug to the back of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I sifted through a lot of drivel until I found out that he's written a lot of stuff for Microsoft.
I was wondering why you were being so quiet.
Well, then I couldn't get the hose off of my junk, so it's just there now. I guess it's just a part of me. What's the hose for?
Don't worry about it.
That's totally unintended. We'll fix that in a little bit. Just don't worry about it.
Don't remove it. It's very important that you don't remove it.
I tried. But yeah, so let's talk about elves and the kingdom of shit.
That.
Is that what it is? The kingdom of shit?
The kingdom of shit, sure. if you feel like doing research on your own, note the radical market difference between VE. And again, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. Please don't sue us. But the difference between the reviews on Amazon and the reviews on Goodreads
is
are
allegedly noticeable.
That's a provable fact. You can see the difference between the reviews with your human eyeballs.
Joe, when has facts ever stopped any delusional person from suing somebody?
I'm not implying any conclusions that one might draw from that information, but that is a thing. And also the reviews on Goodreads, a lot of them are pretty funny. So
right.
So yeah, before we dig in, let's remind the listeners that if you do you like websites? Because we have a website.
I like websites.
Do you like websites?
I like websites too.
Websites are good things. I think you just discovered the existence of websites, and
the hose is doing weird things.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's supposed to be doing that. It's okay.
It's fine.
Just sort of relax through it.
Okay, I'll just relax through it. Okay.
Yep.
Why is this screen popping up that says biological
Hush,
mapping almost complete? What?
Nope, that's fine.
Who taught not David to read?
I mean, it is sort of important.
Yeah, we
Like,
needed him
we
to
just
have that
I was
skill.
created for
books.
that.
Yeah, because we needed him to be a replacement for David when David is away, so he had to be able to read.
I thought we needed a replacement for David when the books eventually make David lose his mind and shatter his perception of reality.
Wait,
and
what?
We need to shoot him out an airlock.
We weren't going to say that out loud, is the thing.
Wait, I mean, I know that we're creating another clone so that when Kaine eventually wears away through imperfect cloning technology, we can just have another one. But what's this about me?
Again, none of that. Just forget it. Don't even worry about it
now, sir.
Also, I just want to point out that with every episode we've done, it's been a different not David. We have to kill David. We have to kill not David after the end of every episode. He becomes too self-aware. He starts taking forks and thrashing around with them.
Yeah. Nailing an old pair of gym shoes to your weird stumpies, it isn't really having legs, though.
No. I don't know if you remember this, but I found a lower torso.
That's what he's got the hose attached to.
Oh, wow. We should get on task.
And you guys should go check out our website.
You should check out our website.
brainworms.com.
Absolutely do that.
We give you brainworms.com.
We give you brainworms.com.
We give you brainworms.com.
Eat what you want and still lose weight.
Nice.
We give you brainworms.com.
Can we focus? Or are we just going to do this
want to.
until we fucking die?
I've read some of those reviews. I don't want to do this.
Bad news.
David's going to have to force me. He's going to have to just interrupt whatever the fuck I'm saying and just start reading.
Preface.
Because wait, hold on. We can't start the book yet. We have to plug the midst of Let me grab the wheel real quick just to remind the listeners that if they like what they hear and they want to support it financially, buy us some editing equipment, buy a soundproof room to lock the various iterations of David in until they calm down, you can support us financially through our Patreon, which you can find at wegiveyoubbrainworms.com. Okay.
Well, great. Everything's ruined now. See, the entire point of that, Joe, was so that David would interrupt me.
In 15 BD, the Watcher, Zith, is recorded as saying that history belongs to the teller, and is only as reliable as the teller's recollection of it.
Don't start your book like this. Don't do it.
This is the truth of the matter, and why Keeper Martin, head of the Lore Keepers, chose to pin his own version of the histories of Ruin Mist before and after the return of Dalfan the Wanderer.
Quick question. Where
Who the hell
are
is
we?
Dalfan the
What's
Wanderer,
happening?
and what is the Ruin Mist?
What time
Yeah,
is
that's
it?
why I said don't start your book like this, because it's confusing. Don't do it.
Well, this is the preface.
The hose just unplugged and reattached itself to another location I'd rather not mention.
Can we just shoot not David out an airlock?
No, we need him.
We need the biological matter.
Please continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Through Keeper Martin's gathering of history from various individuals, the story of Ruin Mist is retold in these pages. Keeper Martin would like you to think that his version of the history is the only truthful and correct account, but then again, history belongs to the teller, and is only as reliable as the teller's recollection of it.
As I said a few sentences ago.
In his records, Keeper Martin anglicized many of the place and people names.
Is this book taking place? Don't do that. I'm a huge nerd. I love science fiction fantasy. If you're going to do shit like that, don't use Earth words. You can't go like the magical land of Who's Kadoo and then say anglicize.
Yeah, because that implies the origination of a specific type of Homo sapien from a specific location on the planet Earth.
It specifically implies the existence of angles.
Which
in turn implies the existence of the Goths and the fucking, and so on and so on.
Like if you want to take the easy way out, you can say something like the common tongue. That's fine. But don't do that.
I didn't even know what he meant when he said anglicized it.
I actually like common tongue. I think using the common tongue is
Have we
a good way to
considered
get
that this
past
might
that.
actually be taking place in some sort of like...
It's not. It's fucking not.
Okay. The original names and spellings are preserved in Encyclopedia of Ruin Mist. His annotations about various peoples and creatures are preserved in Fantastical Beasts and Fairy Peoples of Ruin Mist. I should mention, by the way, that what we're reading right now is The Kingdoms and the Elves of the Reaches, Keeper Martin's Tales, Complete Series Omnibus.
Jesus.
Book 1, Chapter 1, 3 Lives Transformed.
God damn it.
David, can we talk about the illustrations that are at the beginning of the book when you get to them?
Oh yeah. So there are all these illustrations of the main character, what I assume will be the main characters. Seth of the Red, Queen's Protector, is an elf with blonde hair and red and gold armor and a big red crimson cloak. Vilmos Taborath is someone casting like a light spell or possibly Jubilee with like a bowl cut and a green shirt. These are D&D characters. There's a two-headed cat, I think.
I'm just gonna watch Twi'lek porn on Pornhub.
Cool.
And then you guys let me know when you're done with this, okay?
Joe, would you do me a favor?
I already have.
Sent me the art.
I did it.
It is not bad art, honestly. The art is pretty good. It's comic book style. It's like D&D character illustration style. Very sort of very much that. Just, fantastic art, not
It's in that weird middle tier where it probably shouldn't be in a published book. But if someone did it and showed it to me, I'd say, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it does. To me, what it looks like is comic book art from the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like big muscles. Pockets, not the Lee-filled style, but that sort of fantasy comic book illustration style. It's very much a reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
It's a bit much on the masculine proportions, but other than that, yeah, it's
Like it's competent
bad.
enough. I just
yeah,
wanna-
yeah, definitely.
I mean, this Aiden Mark guy looks like he'd fall over in the center, but
Yeah.
that might be the armor more than anything else.
Very Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld proportions.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
And it does kind of look like, well, I mean, it looks like the sort of illustrations you would see in a cheap fantasy novel.
It's true.
So, Chapter 1, 3 Lives Transformed. Sunrise loomed across the horizon, pale as jasmine and mostly obscured by dark, feral clouds.
Okay.
The early morning air held an unusual chill, and Adrena gathered her light shawl more closely as she stepped out onto the catwalk atop the wall. A stout breeze blew long strands of hair across her face.
Is it her hair? Are
The
there
hair.
just chunks of hair flying around in the wind?
It's uncertain. The next line is the hair.
Okay, interesting choice.
The hair, black as the reciting night, flowed to her waist, and while it was normally braided and folded over her left shoulder, it wasn't now.
What the fuck? Don't do that. We see these kind of mid to low tier authors doing this. Don't say ordinarily it'd be this way, but now it's not this way.
Yeah,
It's poor. Don't do it.
It's tempting, I know, but it's low-hanging fruit and it never works well.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Summer must surely be at an end, Adrena surmised, for the breeze came from the north and not from the west deep.
Well, that's what's implied when the wind comes from the north. That it's not coming from the west.
Adrena walked to a place where the wall jutted out and cut its way into the High King Square. Behind her, the palace parade grounds were empty and silent, as was the square before her. The silence seemed a shroud over the whole of Imtal, clear to the Bradabagan foothills.
Okay, we're getting a lot of weird fantasy wizard words thrown at us.
The silence seemed a shroud over the
What?
whole of Imtal, clear to the Bradabagan foothills.
What is it with bad fantasy writers it's like they're self-conscious that if anyone questions their world, it'll all just poof apart. So they just come up with all of these words immediately right out of the gate.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
No,
either.
seriously, it's a role play. I swear, believe me, officer.
Mhm.
Well, I agree. There's something about, like, when you're reading fantasy novels, it's easy to, or writing fantasy, you just fucking make things up, right?
Right,
you just
right, for
make noise, put noises together until it seems like a word.
Mhm.
And so you get things that sound silly, like from Imtal clear to the Bradabagan foothills, but is that really any more silly than the Appalachian foothills?
For me, it's not about that. It's not that it, like you're building a world. I get it, but we've read, I think Dan Brown was just like we opened up and he was just throwing all of these proper nouns at us.
Oh yeah.
And like you can't just throw, and especially because it's a magical fantasy world, just a monster hurricane of names of people and places and objects in the opening pages of your thing, and not start giving your readers some context for what those things are.
Well, I mean, I also think you do have to give people time. Paragraph 3, I think, is a fair place to introduce these are the places around here.
Sure.
But if you do that and then immediately launch into these are the Bradabagan foothills and this is their history and then you're just going to get criticized for why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
Why is this important?
I think what's vitally important to, okay, it's the third paragraph, let's start putting some fantasy into this, is that in paragraphs 1 and 2, you give the reader a firm grounding point from which to observe everything that's about to happen.
I mean, basically right now we know that there's a woman standing on a catwalk watching the sunrise.
Getting hair blown into her face. It might be hers, it might not be.
It's the end of summer.
Mhm.
That's what we know.
Sure.
So, many stories below, the city's residents would soon awake. The square would fill with sounds as merchants began to unpack their wares. Palace guardsmen would muster for breakfast. City and palace would stir to life. Yet Adrena preferred the empty moments just before all this happened, for the silence echoed the aching of her heart.
Wow.
She pressed her chin into the palm of her hand, her elbow glued to the stone framework of the wall. She sighed mournfully. The palace was truly dead, all real life having long since been gnawed away. There's no cliché at work here.
No. Very
I've
original.
never heard this story before.
No.
She could have passed the day dreaming about things beyond the gray stone edifice, the cold palace wall, with its portcullis tucked cleanly out of view. She had sauntered through many a day thus, envisioning magnificent journeys to the four corners of the land. Great Kingdom had many holdings.
Great Kingdom, you say?
Great Kingdom.
Great Kingdom.
The Bradabag foothills are in the Great Kingdom.
No, not the Great Kingdom.
Oh,
just
right. Just
Great Kingdom.
Right. You're gonna be all right, buddy. It's still pretty early in the book. We're gonna be
I know.
breaking down.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
typically,
That's why it hurts.
typically those sorts of things, they don't just translate it into the common tongue. Like if you're gonna be Great Kingdom, it's gonna be this word in the land, in the name of the people that we conquered when we took over here, meant Great Kingdom. Like Ohio means beautiful water.
Right.
So that's weird. That's fun.
It is a little, yeah.
It would be one thing if they said like, oh yeah, in the original Elven tongue it's this, but it translates to like, I don't know, great resting place or something.
Well, it
I
looks
don't
like
know.
our massive info dump is just about to come, so...
Oh boy.
Great Kingdom had many holdings. High Province in the north, the far, far north, where amidst mountains of ice and stone the rivers boiled and filled the air with blankets of fog.
Is it
South.
the land of the ice and stone?
Come from the land of the ice and stone. South, beyond a forest of great white trees called Giant Birch, lay South Province with its capital city enveloped by the majestic Kashan Valley. East through the kingdom along the east-west road were the territories, divided east and west. The untamed eastern territories were awaiting discovery. The western territories held but two kingdom outposts, the Shita and Krepost.
God, I'm actively like listening, and just I can't hold on to what you're saying. It's just flying in one ear and then out the other.
Yeah,
Well,
this
trying.
as people do, you have a woman, ostensibly a princess, someone named Adrena, who
Dreams of more.
is sitting on the walls of her castle, standing on the walls of her castle in sunrise, early autumn, just musing about the locations of her kingdom and all of the places that exist in this kingdom, as if someone were looking over her shoulder, thinking, gee, I wonder where this is set. You know, completely invisible writing at work here. I am impressed. I'm not impressed.
No.
Traders claimed the walled city of the Shita, Zashchita. Zashchita? They're Zashchita.
And this may or may not be a nitpick, and if it is, then whatever.
I'm gonna go with Ashkita.
These names of places don't feel very phonetically consistent. Like it doesn't sound like they come from the same language, and a good writer, that would be something like they were named by different cultures.
Right. And I mean, we have South Province with its capital city enveloped by the majestic Kashan Valley.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe what we've got here are, because some of these, like Kashan and Krepost, Kashan has an apostrophe and Krepost has an apostrophe at the end.
Right.
So they just randomly have these, and I don't know if I should be pronouncing this like Kashan or something like that.
Sure.
fantasy shit. And that's probably meant to be like, these were elf names. And the elf people were taken over by the human people because human people are just bads, all see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Real quick, Tolkien was a linguist, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why all of his languages are like just so incredibly elegant.
He actually invented languages so that his books would be internally consistent.
I just wanted to think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Because this does feel like this person is just mashing syllables together as they go. I'm hoping that's not the case.
I guess we'll kind of see.
Maybe,
Maybe. Traders claimed the walled city of Zashida was carved from the very trees of the forest, and its building lifted so far into the heavens that they were lost in the clouds. So, sounds like elf work.
Sure.
Beyond Zashida lay Krapast and her ferrymen, who took travelers across River Krapast so they could begin to climb into the mountain city. Sorry?
Does she own... hold on, because I'm sorry, I know we're going off on every tangent. I need to call attention to the fact that she doesn't own the hair that blew into her face, but she does own the ferryman who takes travelers across the river.
That might be her, or it might be a sort of... They may have been trying to reference Krapast.
Oh, the city, right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's on me. That's my bad.
Good looking out.
Yeah.
And where afterward the gatekeeper may or may not chase them over the cliffs into Statter's Bay and to their deaths.
Well, okay. I think he may or may not take a shit as well. Do you want to call attention to that?
But today, Adrena was frustrated to the point of tears.
Chekhov's gatekeeper.
She wouldn't pass the day dreaming of things she may never see. She didn't understand what difference the passing of a year made. Why did it matter so that she was a year older? This year seemed the same as the last. She would have done anything, given anything, to be a little girl again, free to wander the city in her brother's shadow. Together they would wander Imtal's cobbled streets. She would pretend not to notice the press of guardsmen around them, and see only those who had come out to greet them. A fleeting smile lit her face. She knew this could be no more. Valam was gone now, gone to South Province, gone for good, and she, Adrena, was leaving adolescence. The echo of footsteps against hard stones startled her. Her eyes went wide, and she wondered if Lady Isidore would venture to the walls. Her governess had threatened to before.
Okay.
Adrena didn't want to be reminded of all the things she should or should not do, so she slipped away to the northern watchtower. At dawn, the tower would be vacant, and she could be alone without fear of interruption. Adrena wound her way up a long spiral staircase. She stopped only at the very top to catch her breath. Here at the landing was a large open chamber whose broad windows were normally used to keep watch on the city's north wall and the fields beyond. Adrena crossed the empty chamber to a window. The cool breeze on her face tingled her nose and brushed the sweat away. "No lessons today," she whispered to the wind. Lessons Chancellor Yi and Lady Isidore would surely chastise her for missing them if they found her.
No, I'm picturing that she was getting lessons from the wind about how to break wind.
Okay.
"Not today," Adrena vowed. "Not today."
Wow. I don't know if the writer's intent was for that line to be read with that level of intensity, but I'm glad you made that choice. This is not exciting.
No, and it Joe, I think you may have made a bad call with this book.
I'm trying to watch Twi'lek porn. Can you guys quit fucking interrupting me? Jesus.
Joe, I think this may be the kind of bad where it's like impenetrable. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah,
it's
just so, yeah.
It keeps I keep zoning out
Right.
Me too.
And not in the way that I was zoning out during Something Wicked This Way Comes. You know, like I would zone out and see the things that David was describing
Right.
in Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Some of it, again, and I think we talked about this on maybe Empress Teresa way back. All of the sentences have kind of the same rhythm.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
It's punishing.
And really, I think there's nothing in this opening chapter that provides any kind of hook.
No.
Like, we can talk about things like Deathbite and how the opening chapter was honestly so much fucking better than the rest of the book.
It was.
Minus all of
least
the
that
racist bullshit.
Right.
Right. But at least that opening chapter was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Always
I
starts
think
strong.
the same thing with Digital Fortress.
Yeah.
Like the opening chapter at least built some anticipation. It gave you something to look for, and
It didn't maintain it.
no. But this opening chapter, and it does take me all the way back to Empress Teresa and the author talking about how writers will do exactly what I was just talking about. They'll put something in to be, fancy and exciting at the beginning, and he wasn't going to do that.
Right.
And apparently this author is also not going to do that. But if you're not going to do that, don't just give me a 13-year-old girl standing on a castle wall with her hair blowing while she thinks about the rest of the kingdom and the places she'll never go.
Right.
Dreaming of something more.
Because you know what? We all know this story.
This is,
And there's nothing
new
in
here.
it so far that makes me want to continue.
No.
I would not still be reading this if I weren't obligated to by
If you
the
didn't
terms
have
of
to.
our podcast.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. Always more reminders of the things she should or should not do. Her proper place, always her proper place. She knew all about the proper things, the proper mannerisms, the proper greetings, her proper duties, her proper place. She had even been taught, though only recently, the proper things to do to invite a man's attention.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna take my headphones off and I'm gonna snap my own neck. Hang on a second.
Good deal, good deal.
All right,
Yep,
all right.
yep.
1, 2.
Did it work?
But why? What did she need a man for?
Damn
Moreover, what would she do with one once she caught him? Was there anything she couldn't do on her own? Dance the tango. Leave him tall.
You could
the wind.
dance the tango on your own. You would just look real silly.
You cannot. It takes two.
Oh,
Yep.
Leave him tall, the wind seemed to say. That was right. On her own, she would never leave him tall. The palace would be all she would see for the rest of her days. But did it have to be this way? The wind, howling in answer, spurred Adrena on. Courtship! Marriage! She shouted back. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad, for surely all suitors don't live in Imtal. As quickly as she said it, Adrena cast the notion away. Marriage had taken Kalyan away. Adrena told the wind, "No, that's not for me." I wish I could tell the wind, this is not for me.
Yeah. I mean, you can. Again, there's nothing stopping you.
I am an adult.
Yeah.
It just like,
That healing factor's getting quicker, man.
yeah, seriously.
Because of all the things I did to his blood.
Right.
Just like,
Other better writers have told, like, centuries of other better writers have told this story.
not only that, but like when telling this story, they've been able to add in little details, like little tidbits here and there that imply certain things about the character, so that
Right.
as you're reading, you're like subconsciously learning about them.
Mhm.
And this is just so hollow. It's like a shell of ashes.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have never in my life seen a character that was a girl on the edge of womanhood, pining for freedom, just thinking on how she's one day going to have to wed, and that is the entirety of her existence. Like, sure, okay. Yes, that was
Like
true.
every Disney movie ever?
Right. Like, let's do a little more than that. Let's give her some depth. She's talking to the bloody wind.
Who's taking bets that she's secretly a skilled sword fighter? I'm sorry, Chris. I interrupted you a couple times. Go ahead.
I feel like one way that you could take this that might make it more interesting is to have the character be weighing the options of familiarity, comfort, boring, or or excitement, but danger. Like in one place,
that has been done.
I figured
the conflict between safety and comfort,
sure,
and a life of adventure,
because it doesn't seem like a very complex concept. But it just sounds like it would be more interesting than what's going on now.
It's true.
I just think fantasy needs to get out of its own goddamn way.
Yeah, I do too.
Why am I reading another book about a young girl whose only real future is marriage, who is going to be swept away into adventure and find out, what her real strengths are and probably become, probably already is a badass swords person because she's been sneaking away and taking lessons with the maester.
God, I would give anything to have Commander Vimes smash through the wall and start solving crime.
I would actually really enjoy Solid Justin showing back up.
I would also settle for Solid Justin.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say smash through the wall and step on me.
On the plus side, so far in this book, there have been no large men.
Don't jinx it.
There will be. I mean, there will be a large man.
No, you're wrong, because the illustrations at the beginning had large men.
Oh, that's true. The king appears to be a large man. So.
Yeah.
And the red, that elf guy, he looked like a large man.
That's probably true. I mean...
Well, maybe they're all bite-sized, We can hope. It's not really a large man unless it's a confirmed large man in the text.
Yeah, we only have suspicion of large man.
Yeah.
She reveled in memories now, slipping back into the past at a time when everything seemed simpler. The minutes slipped away, and then Adrena pictured a beautiful, sad face. Tears came to her eyes. Simpler times were not easier times. Why, Mother? Why did you have to go? I have never forgiven you, never, and I never will. I am all alone now. Kalyan is wed. Valam is in the south. Midori went away, never to return. And
Who the fuck are these people?
You are gone. What am I to do? Can you know how much I loved you? And you always in that stupid garden.
Fuck that garden.
No one, I don't care how emotional you are, talks like that.
Yeah.
I don't care what time period it is. I don't care if you're a different elven species. No one talks like that.
Yeah, I had some time with that dialogue to sort of try and determine how I was going to deliver it.
It was a good read.
And that's the best that can be done. I promise.
Yep.
Adrena waited. The wind howled, but no answer came. Queen Alexandria was beautiful. Land and people loved her very dear, said a figure from the shadows.
Land?
Land.
Like the land itself loved her?
That's what it says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the kingdom.
Like they do.
Yeah. Great kingdom.
Great kingdom for great justice.
Adrena screamed. Her heart stopped.
She died.
Yeah.
Oh, God. What a tragic end.
I did not see that coming.
Standing at the edge, remembering her past and her family members, and then she died. What a terrible end to a book. Okay, let's do something else.
I would be totally willing to accept that at this point the book picks up with the point of view of the person who was in the room and just continues from there until they die. And you just pick up with the point of view of the nearest person to that person when they died.
Awesome.
That would
that's
be
amazing.
A fun read.
God,
Oh, that would be so cool.
Can you imagine what it would be like to transition from the princess dreaming of more to the chambermaiden scrubbing out the shit toilet?
That would be a fun creative project.
Yeah.
Like if you had a bunch of friends in like an artist collective to just write like that, like write, a short story and then end with a character's death and then pick it up. That would be really fun.
But only pick it up by the person that was in the room when the character died.
Just someone that happened to see it. Yep.
Yeah, that's a neat idea. Yeah.
It is. Probably the best thing that's going to come out of this episode.
Adrena screamed. Her heart stopped. Then, in a sudden flood of thoughts, her young mind began to race. Surely this must be a rogue come to steal her away. Adrena said coyly, and hoped the other knew she wasn't telling the truth. What manner of rogue are you? My
I'm not
father
that kind of
would
rogue.
hardly pay ransom for his third daughter. I am of little worth.
Isn't that kind of implied that she hopes that she's telling this person this? Isn't it kind of implied that she wants to be believed?
Also, it sounds really seductive, like, oh, a rogue in my room. Surely you haven't come for the ransom. My father won't pay for his third daughter. What else?
Yeah,
wink, wink, wink.
Said coyly
Could you?
might not have been the best adverb to use right there.
Yeah, I'm what a weird, Adrena said coyly and hoped the other knew she wasn't telling the truth.
Yeah, who writes like that? I mean, obviously this person writes like that.
So you hope they know you're lying.
I don't understand. Just keep going. Just
Knew she wasn't.
plunge through, David.
Wait, no, hang
Yeah.
on. No. Everyone, halt, stop. Now, who wants to take bets that this, quote, rogue, unquote, is, a friend that I recognize now when you take the hood off. Oh, hugs.
I'm
don't
gonna
know,
go back to
maybe.
my Twi'lek porn. Fuck this.
I'm just really hung up on that. Is that a typo?
Yeah,
What-
hope the other knew she wasn't telling. I didn't even pick up on that until you pointed it out.
Hoped the other knew she wasn't telling the truth. What manner of rogue are you? My father would hardly pay ransom for his third daughter.
One thing that might help is to take out all the negatives. Like if there's a double negative and you take out all the negatives.
Sure, yeah. Hoped the other knew she was telling the truth would be a
Kinda
really
work?
weird way to phrase.
Yeah.
Hoped the other didn't think she was lying. Or hoped the other believed her.
Right. And I don't like to assign benefit of the doubt to these writers, but maybe that's deliberate and she wants to be kidnapped because the whole thing is like, oh, I want to get out of this castle and go paint with all the colors of the wind or whatever.
Oh, that's a good point. You know what? Yeah,
so maybe
actually,
that's
that
like she
could
kind of
be.
wants to be taken away.
No,
It's still a clunky, horrible sentence.
I don't.
It took a lot of pulling at it, but I think that's actually,
Yeah.
I think that's probably the intention, and that is actually a fairly, that's a reasonable amount of character added in with that
Right.
line.
We might have thought our way around that one.
Right.
I still just innately object to a pretty princess whose dreams of more and her only method of escaping her fate is to be kidnapped.
Well, yeah, it's definitely original. Like,
Princess Peach called.
Yeah. And her kidnapping sets off an adventure? Wow, I've never heard or seen a story like that
I bet you
before.
there's going to be a character with a certain set of skills, very particular set of skills.
I hate this. Let's keep moving.
The robed figure, still enveloped in shadows, spoke again. By the mother, I never heard such a thing. The figure moved toward Adrena, who edged closer and closer to the open window behind her. Child, I will not harm you. Who are you, and what are you doing here?
Kids,
Adrena asked.
if anyone says, "Child, I will not hurt you," run and tell your parents.
It's true, yeah.
Who are you, and what are you doing here? Adrena asked, brushing back hair from her eyes.
I see what you did there.
Your face is covered in soot. Stop where you are, or I will scream again.
This dialogue is hurting me.
Go ahead. None will hear. I come to speak to you, Highness. I have seen you standing in this tower often.
Go ahead. None will hear. It's very convenient that you don't have any guards posted outside.
Yeah, I feel like if you've already screamed once, I will scream again is kind of an empty, like, either you've gotten the payoff from screaming the first time or no one has heard it.
Go away, or I shall taunt you a second time.
Yeah.
Who are you? I live here. I clean. You will journey beyond Imtal. I have seen you in a far-off place. Talk about burying the lead.
Yeah.
Seen me in a dream. Smell the wind.
You're a crazy person.
Smell the wind? Child,
Would you like to buy a lightning rod?
smell it. It comes. Can you not tell? It? She is learning how to break wind.
Dialogue. Just hurts. It hurts so much.
And now there's another drawing
Cool.
of a mysterious figure encroaching upon a young girl. Her hair in this drawing is in a braid. I am livid.
Consistency,
Fucking
kids.
continuity errors in your illustrations.
Fuck this book.
No. The strange woman took Adrina's hand and turned her to the window. The chill breeze
Did that need to be a chapter break?
It
Why
wasn't.
did it
There
end
was
like
just
this
an
is a radio
illustration.
Okay.
Like-
I thought it was like a chapter break.
No.
It felt like it was trying to end on a cliffhanger. What the fuck was that?
That's because of the... I imagine if it were a print book, like actual physical book, the illustration might have been on like a facing page. That would have been the end of the previous page, and then you turn
right.
the page. But because of the nature of what we're doing here, I put a pause in, turned to the next page, saw that there was an illustration,
Sure.
feigned rage about it, and now we're moving on.
Yep.
The strange woman took Adrina's hand and turned her to the window. The chill breeze was still howling out of the north. Change, child. Sadness cannot hold forever the land. Adrina turned to look at the woman's face.
Oh my god, it's Baby Yoda.
The woman directed Adrina's gaze away and pointed to the distant horizon. Adrina stared long. She imagined she could see Solstice Mountain and the whole of the Rift Range.
Again, just hurling places and
Remember in the Fellowship of the Ring when they would be passing some weird bridge and Frodo would say, you know, Frodo, also known as Audience Proxy, would say, hey, what's that bridge? And then Gandalf would tell him what it is.
when the audience needed that information when it was happening relevant to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember that. I remember it pretty well.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was crafted.
I don't know, man. You guys don't sit in your room staring out the window thinking of the mountain ranges in the distance that you can't see.
All the time.
They're out there. Mountains.
Yeah.
Somewhere. She imagined she could see Solstice Mountain and the whole of the Rift Range. I can't decide if I like that as a mountain name or not, though. Like Solstice Mountain, it's.
Oh, Solstice Mountain is pretty good. If that were in like someone's homebrew D&D setting, I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm here for it.
Stealing that.
Especially if it was like a weird mystical, like the
Yeah,
tallest
for sure.
mountain that all the kingdoms encircle, Solstice. You know.
Yeah, that works.
Or like, for some reason, worked out that your planet had on the shortest day of the year or longest day of the year, or both, the sun would come up and set directly behind that mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
sure.
something like that.
That would be cool.
We're doing better world building just shooting the shit than this writer has done in 21 pages.
Although we have, I want to point out that we have to give the writer credit that they spurred it with naming something Solstice.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
In her dreams, she had journeyed there. The border country all around Great Kingdom was wild, to the north especially so. The sole purpose of the elite High Road Garrison Guardsmen was to provide travelers with safe passage along the kingdom's high road, and to shield the kingdom from bandit incursions out of the north. The High Road Garrison Guardsmen are there to provide travelers with safe passage along the kingdom's high
right.
road. Good to know.
This is a recurring theme. Books that stop action, like actual events happening, to go into a character's thoughts, completely unrelated to the things that are happening around them.
Yeah.
Why do that even?
Yeah, there's no reason we need to know about the High Road Garrison Guardsmen right now.
I can think of a reason or two why we should know about the princess, but I mean, that's not important.
I mean, and it's probably necessary and important at some point to establish their existence.
Then tell us about it then.
Yeah.
But if you do wait to tell us about it then you have a whole bunch of info dumps happening at that point.
Then don't write a shitty story.
Hey, there you go. Be better. Get good.
Write well.
It's like, man, when I try to make this ham and candy corn sandwich, it doesn't matter how many ways I arrange it. It's terrible. Like, well, don't make that sandwich.
Yeah, you should focus on smudge.
Don't make that reference on our podcast. The listeners don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Oh, they should learn
I'm
about
gonna leave it in.
Smudge is a taste treat. It's just canned peaches and canned tomatoes blended together.
It's delicious, all smushed up.
Smudge.
It's not delicious.
It's a great treat before you go to a dark carnival of the soul.
Beyond High Road was a vast desert called the Barrens, a no man's land. Beyond the Barrens was the untiring Rift Range, ice-capped mountains of jagged black rock that climbed perilously into the heavens. Or so she had been told. And since, the teller is not to be believed, and the truth depends on the, teller or whatever the fuck this book started by telling us.
Right, yeah.
If that's all stuff she's been told and now she's telling us, this is all literally meaningless. This is all completely conjecture and probably wrong, right?
Yeah, the chronicler scribe that's outlining these historical events and maybe imposing their bias on them, maybe not, is taking time out from the princess's encounter with this maybe kidnapper to go, she was thinking about the mountains, and then she thought about the desert. She heard about the desert and the mountains.
If you're Tolkien, when you spent the time coming up with death certificates for all of the people who died in the wars over the time period, you can get away with that. Because Tolkien put the fucking work in.
Yeah.
He did some hella good world building, but I still think that reading J.R.R. Tolkien and reading stereo instructions come in at about the same level of engaging.
Oh, yeah. But when stuff was happening, it was really happening.
Yeah. And, I enjoy his work. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, though. Like as you said, God, the Silmarillion rubbed me with sandpaper.
I mean, it wasn't really meant to be read.
Right. That was his world-building Bible.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like, that's why it's okay for Tolkien, because...
Right. Because he put in the work.
Yeah. This person's just throwing words. I'll take this word. I'll put it with this word. It's a new word. Here you go. You want a new word? There you go. Well, bada bing, bada boom.
Pick a word, any word.
Is that where I'll journey to? Adrena asked, turning around. The woman was gone. Hello? Are you still here? I totally pictured the sentries from Portal. The chill north wind howled. Adrena turned eyes filled with expectations back to the fields beyond Imtal. Kalian had told her once that in the north there were mountains that breathed rivers of fire. It's a cool way to describe a volcano, I suppose.
It is, yeah.
Hearing what sounded like a foot slipping across the stones of the floor, Adrena spun around. Hello?
There was a foot slipping across the surface of the floor.
She called out. From the shadows, the woman whispered, "Be careful what you wish for." Adrena stepped toward the woman.
I hate this.
What do you mean? The woman, her face
what do you
suddenly
mean?
appearing aged beyond her years, took Adrena's
What do you
hand.
think it means?
She kneeled then, and as she kissed Adrena's hand, Adrena felt the moisture of tears on her arm. The woman whispered, "I cry for the children who at the end of the journey will never be the same. Child, I cry for you. I
Fuck
cry because I see you standing in the midst of a killing field. I cry for the thousands dead at your feet.
Now I'm just picturing that the field she's standing in are all heavy metal. Like, all the little strands of wheat are heavy metal fans. So, like, they're rocking out and they accidentally beat her to death.
What?
Yeah, wheat strands, head banging, get on my level.
I don't know if that's possible. So that was the introduction of Adrena.
Yes.
And then the book does do a chapter break, and we get to crying out in the darkness, alone, afraid and drenched in sweat. Vilmos awoke.
Hang on, before we move on to Vilmos, I have to do this. Are you feeling tired, run down, listless? Do you poop out of parties? Try our new adrenal supplement, Adrena.
Do you feel better now that you've gotten that in?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So I assume, just based on the title, 3 Lives Transformed,
yes,
that Chapter 1 will take us through Adrena, Vilmos, and an as-yet unknown third character.
Sure.
And they're probably going to become our, like, mains or whatever.
They're going to become the main characters.
Yep. I don't know that we'll get all the way through Chapter 1 on this one, guys.
Yeah, I wanted to. Because it's 31 pages. What page are we on?
I don't know. We are at 2%.
I think we're on page like 26.
Right. I mean, we can give it a shot.
Yeah.
Do we really have to? I mean,
yeah, let's do it.
Is the story, I'm just saying, has the story not told us everything it needs to tell us?
It just feels like doing a whole chapter seems to be a good representation of the book. I know, but I at least want to give it a fair shake and do a complete chapter.
Okay.
Well, let's move forward here. Crying out into the darkness, alone, afraid and drenched in sweat, Vilmos awoke. His thoughts raced. The whole of his small body shivered uncontrollably. Opening eyes and uncurling his huddled form from a corner, moist with his own perspiration, yet still cold from the night's chill,
That's
was
how
a
I
slow,
wake up every day.
time-consuming process. It was only a nightmare, Vilmos whispered to reassure himself. A nightmare like no other. In the dream, he had used the forbidden magic once too often, and the priests of the dark flame.
In the nightmare, I dreamed I was in a terrible fantasy novel.
Oh man, I hate it when that happens.
In the dream, he had used the forbidden magic once too often, and the priests of the dark flame, opposers of all that is magic and magical, came from their temples to slay him.
This is cliche as fuck, but at least it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We're doing some world building.
We're now opening up the magic is bad, Kay.
Yeah.
Vilmos stood uneasily and dipped trembling hands into the wash basin beside the bed. The cool water sucked the hurt from his eyes.
What?
The cool water sucked the hurt from his eyes and mind, and gently began to soothe and awaken his senses as nothing else would.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but when I wake up right in the morning, the most favorite part of my morning routine is splashing my face with cold water.
Dipping your trembling hands into the wash basin.
I don't do that for the shock of it to wake me up.
No,
that's not what I do.
Calms you down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Carefully, he dabbed a wet cloth to the corners of his eyes, and only then did he become something other than the frightened boy who in his dreams huddled into the forlorn corner because of the sense of security it gave him to know his back was against the wall and that nothing could sneak up on him from behind.
Was that all
there
one
is
sentence?
No punctuation in that sentence.
Yeah, I heard you reading it like deliberately not breaking it up. There was no punctuation in that?
No. Carefully he dabbed a wet cloth to the corners of his eyes, and only then did he become something other than the frightened boy who in his dreams huddled into the forlorn corner because of the sense of security it gave him to know his back was against the wall and that nothing could sneak up on him from behind.
Okay, like, I get it. I get why you're going up, like, but that's what it means to be curled in a corner. Like,
Hire an editor.
You don't need to explain.
Use a comma.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain the sense of secure. It's innate. It's evolutionary. We know.
I hate.
I wasn't even having the same problem with it as you
No,
guys
but
were. I was having
we were
different
both
problem.
ranting independently, back and forth at each other as though we were having a conversation.
You know, we've read a lot of terrible stuff on this show.
It's true.
We have.
I genuinely impressed by the badness of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Dude, Eye of Argon totally beats this book.
I don't know.
Eye of Argon had some charm.
Yeah,
That's
Eye of
what I'm
Argon,
saying.
Yeah.
Like,
I
Eye
see
of
what you're saying.
Argon,
Yeah.
way better than this book.
Yeah.
And Eye of Argon was trash.
It was trash.
But man, like they're for the like. Okay, in the Eye of Argon, the author definitely wasted our time at some points, but not to this extent.
No.
Yeah, I feel like my whole day's a wash now. Aside from the Twi'lek porn.
Aside from that, yeah. Only then that he became the boy of 12 whose name was Vilmos. Vilmos because it was a trustworthy name. Vilmos because it was his father's name.
I guess
was
we'll have to
named
take your
Vilmos
fucking word for it.
Because it had been his father's name. Vilmos, the counselor's son.
How wide do you think I would have to open my mouth to eat my own head?
We won't know till you try.
Readying for the day's chores, he tried to push the last of the dream from his thoughts. But as he leaned down to rinse his face once more in the cool water of the basin, it was as though he was sucked into the water. And when he opened his eyes, he was in a different place.
Gee,
In this place,
I wonder
there was
what
no
his...
moon or stars, only
hang on.
boundless lines of fire cutting into the ebony of the heavens.
I just want to point out that, a nightmare, an insight into something the character is deathly afraid of. That is very informative for learning about a character, and we're ignoring it. It's just he had a nightmare. Moving
we're
on.
done with that. Yeah.
Well, there's a whole ass illustration devoted to his nightmare on the
Hey,
following page. It's
would you
just a sweaty boy with what appears to be also said boy with magic hands and several someones in cloaks using what appears to be magic to stop him from using magic.
I need you to say sweaty boy again.
Sweaty boy?
Yeah.
Sweaty boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's upsetting. Let's not do that anymore.
Sorry, I forgot we weren't in the spooky season anymore.
I pulled it up because I wanted to see what you were describing. The art has taken on this weird kind of
I need to see it.
manga-esque style.
Yeah, it's sort of weirdly manga meets woodcut.
Joe, could you link me the art?
Yeah.
At his feet lay a dirt road, and ahead beyond a crossroads was a forest of dark trees. The dark trees, glowing with an eerie radiance, called to him. Puzzled,
If they're glowing with an eerie radiance, are they really dark trees?
No.
Puzzled, Vilmos clutched his arms about his chest and followed the dirt road toward the strange light in the distance. Beyond the crossroads was a long stretch of empty road. Vilmos hurried. As he approached the forest, the shadows grew long despite the glow in the treetops.
Beyond the crossroads, there was more road.
Also, shadows growing long despite the glow in the treetops. I imagine the shadows would be, because of the glow.
Yeah, because that's how
shadows work.
Yeah.
It was within these shadows that Vilmos saw a mass of black darker than all the rest. Slowly, the mass took form, and it was only as he stumbled through the great ruins that he saw someone sitting within the folds of the great shadow. When the figure looked in Vilmos's direction, 2 thin beams of light radiated from the eyes the color of a silver moon. Stare as he might, Vilmos could only see the strange eyes within the folds of the figure's hood. He asked, "Is this a dream? If a dream, it is a waking dream." The voice seemed to be that of a man. "Who are you?" Vilmos asked. "You can call me Shaman." The shaman stood. Vilmos was surprised to find he could look directly into the shiny eyes without looking up. The strange eyes, hypnotizing and dazzling, danced as the shaman regarded Vilmos, and then the shaman took Vilmos's hand. The hand in Vilmos's seemed a piece of hardened leather and not the hand of a man at all.
This is fascinating.
Vilmos repeated, "Who are you?" Who I am is not important at the moment. The robed figure lowered his hood to reveal childlike features riddled with lines that spoke of ages past and of hardship. Although few of the ancient ones ever ventured into the kingdoms, Vilmos had read about them in the Great Book. He knew in an instant the figure was a gnome, and kin to the mighty dwarves who lived in the bowels of the earth.
We're just hitting every cliche on the way down, aren't we?
Yep.
The shaman raised his eyes to the fires etched in the skies, and then waved his hands one over the other until a glowing orb of brilliant white appeared. Within the orb was a face, the face of a woman, young in her years, though still older than Vilmos. I'm gonna bet I know who this is. Her cheekbones were high and rosy. Her eyes were green, and her hair long and black.
This is just all making me imagine how derivative this work is. It just made me think of, like, a modern-day remake of Lord of the Rings called Lord of the Blings, and it's a bunch of hip-hop rappers.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably read that, too.
Yeah. Your mind just wanders, doesn't
it? Yeah.
In a way, she was strikingly beautiful, yet there was such sadness in her eyes, and this sadness cut into his heart. "Who is she?" Vilmos asked. "A princess, and the one you seek," whispered the shaman. For an instant, tension and pain was evident on the shaman's face, and then a new figure appeared within the orb. "Take a long look, Vilmos. He is of a race swept from the world of the seeing long ago. Their legend is recorded in the great book of your realm, yet few ever knew the truth of their disappearance. Change is sweeping the land, all the lands, and the kingdoms of elf and human are no exception." Vilmos beaded his eyes, his heart filled with hatred. "Elves are our sworn enemies."
This is a metaphor for racism.
God, is this chapter over yet?
No. The shaman grabbed Vilmos' shoulders and shook him violently.
"Yes!
Remember the faces. The two and the one will be drawn together, as are the winds clashing against the fourth unseen. Your dreams will bring them."
Wow.
I don't know why I decided that.
No, keep it up. You should read every book like that. You know, we could have brought these characters together in an organic kind of storytelling way, but I guess if the avatar of the author just wants to show up and tell them where to go, that's fine.
So I get it. It's the hero cycle, all right? You have somebody comes from nowhere. There's someone, wizard or wise person, who puts them on the path to adventure.
Yeah.
The problem with that, particularly in heroic fantasy, this sort of thing, these, Tolkien-esque fantasies, why don't these people just fucking do it themselves?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal with this shaman? Why does he need a 12-year-old boy?
Yeah, he's clearly a powerful, magical...
Yeah, that...
But yeah, well, why does he need this child who, I guess, is maybe an apprentice wizard of some kind?
Or like a sorcerer who can't control it, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't
that.
know.
I don't know. When he's a powerful shaman, I guess.
If this was in the Star Wars universe, this boy would be force sensitive, and then the Sith would find him and take him off to the academy and on Korriban, and then we would have a little interesting look into the philosophies and so on of the Sith and all, and that would be fun and interesting.
That's really specific.
I want to be in a better book. Take me away from here.
As he spoke, the shaman turned to the forest, the land called Rilak-Ar. The land called Rilak-Ar, and within dwell the shape-changing beasts of the night.
I'm sorry, David, I want to interrupt you one more time.
'Cause I'm the beast of the night, yeah!
I want to write a fantasy novel where everything is named really bizarre fantasy names, and just for modern parlance, people come up with, cool sounding abbreviations for them.
Okay, thanks for that.
Be forewarned, they come for you, for the princess, for all who would stand in the way. The shaman paused to suck in the heavy air, and then wheeled his hands in a great circle.
What?
Just then, shadows swept through the skies, blocking the fires of the heavens, and the ground beneath Vilmos' feet shook violently. This place is called Underearth, and you, Vilmos, are the second. The first was taken from me before I could reach her.
God, I'm trying to actively visualize this, but the way it's written is, like, blurring my inner eye. It's crazy.
Vilmos was puzzled. Were the stories true? Dare he ask the question that was on his tongue? The shaman sighed. My kingdom and people were taken away so many years past, I cannot recall the day. These people are not having the same conversation.
No.
Your kingdom? The shaman grabbed Vilmos' hand.
You know what this reminds me of? Did you ever see Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
Yes.
Where they would just ask unrelated questions and then re-edit the interviews?
Yep.
That's what this feels like.
The shaman grabbed Vilmos' hand, the grip numbing as he drew a jagged blade from a scabbard at his belt. As he spoke, he dug the blade into Vilmos' palm. Why the palm? Why the fuck? There are so many other places you can get blood from. Just prick a finger.
Yeah, like you open and close your hand a lot.
Yeah. Use the back of the arm, you know, something. Like, moving on.
Yup.
As he spoke, he dug the blade into Vilmos' palm. Elves, gnomes, and humans are all very real. You're a human, I'm a gnome, so clearly...
Was that in doubt? What is this person talking about?
I will come for you, Vilmos. When I do, the dreams end and the journey begins. Remember the faces and forget not that the fourth can blow across the mountain tops. Remember there was another before you and that they reached her before I did. Now, return to your affairs. Listen to the one who will lead you to me.
That sounded like comedy dialogue.
Yeah, the dreams end and the journey begins sounds like a Rush song.
Also, you're literally standing in front of him right now.
Yep.
Listen to the one who will lead you to me. Why don't you... There are so many questions.
Just tell me where you are.
Look, you little gnome fuck. The shaman paused. The shadows directly overhead now blocked out all light from the fire-streaked skies. As a great hand reached down from the heavens to grab them, the shaman hurled a brilliant green orb at Vilmos and spoke a single word. Awaken. Vilmos blinked and found he was leaning over the water basin beside his bed, water and blood dripping from his upturned hands. He shook his head, blinked again. In the other room, he heard his mother calling him.
Why did we need Why?
So it was a dream sequence after he woke up and was splashing his face.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I completely lost that somewhere. Like
I did too. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, no. So it totally did. When he was rinsing his face, he opened his eyes and was in a different place. Just boundless lines of fire cut. So he was having a vision of this, so that makes a little more sense.
I mean, it does, but...
The shaman came and found him in a vision, although in a vision after he was awakened.
You don't put a dream sequence and a vision sequence back to back.
Well, he woke up from a nightmare, because that's never a cliche.
No, it's very...
And then went immediately into a dream sequence.
Yep.
So, right on.
It's just clunky. It feels like a clumsy way to do what we're doing.
Yeah, also considering that the nightmare was never described and played no point in the story at all,
yeah, we could
why not just have that be the
dream? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the nightmare was him being attacked by the people that are anti-magic.
Mm-hmm.
That will become important later.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. It's
the
terrible.
Priests of the dark flame.
I feel the need to remind basically everyone that this book is 680 pages long.
Fuck that.
God.
Like I would have put this down after the first 2 pages.
Yep.
I'd have been like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Okay, so I'm not going to continue Vilmos's story.
Are you just over it?
Because I think we've gotten the idea. He's going to be the one who is like the magic user. He is in some way important. Adrena is in some way important. I do think we should
for more.
move forward and do at least a little bit here of...
If we can get the third person, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be. As someone sitting from... as somebody that's had to stop watching his Twi'lek porn to fucking listen to this drivel, like, I didn't notice any difference between the characters.
It's because they're not characters.
It's the same fucking thing. Like,
Look,
you reading the third
a bored
one
princess and one of them's a nightmare person.
They both sound like this. I didn't know we were talking about someone different until you said the name. And then I was like, oh, that's a different person.
Guardedly, Seth walked beside Queen Mother. His mind carefully searched while his eyes scanned every shadow the two passed. Oh, look, it's the guard person now. That was a character that we were totally lacking from this trio of completely not generic fantasy protagonists.
The Knight Protector bodyguard character. Yup.
As first of the Red, her safety was his responsibility. God damn it, I hate when I'm right. He was against remaining in Sanctuary, but Queen Mother wouldn't speak of leaving. For reasons that escaped Seth, she wanted to use Sanctuary's high hall. Its crystalline walls were especially attuned to reflect the feelings of a particular host, despite even... What? Its crystalline walls were specially attuned to reflect the feelings of a particular host, despite even the best efforts of a mental block or mind shield. And although that was a feat Queen Mother could have easily performed herself, she had said that she wished to conserve her willpower. For what?
Did we release a new rulebook between the introductions of these
Apparently
characters?
there's
This
psionics.
is a whole other thing.
Yeah, there's psionics in this now. All right.
What in the fuck?
Queen Mother, is it true? Has he truly returned? Has Sathar survived the dark journey? Seth sent into her mind as he walked. Even now, he joins forces with King Mark of Westreach, and still others flock to his banner. It is as we most feared. The time has come. May Father and Mother watch over us. Will there be war? Queen Mother regarded Seth. I will miss you in my thoughts.
So, hold on, whoa. I can't... We have, like, Adrena and Vilmos and Gorgathok.
And Seth.
But now we're... and now we're hanging out with Seth and Mark. Sure, do what you want. It's fine.
The words caught Seth by surprise. He didn't understand.
Wait.
The link between Protector and Queen was unbreakable. What?
Hang on, I'm just picturing, like, Gandalf, like, the ring came to you. You were meant to suffer. You were meant to bear this burden, Ted.
The words caught Seth by surprise. He didn't understand. The link between Protector and Queen was unbreakable. Unbreakable! He was the watchwarden of her body and of her mind. He felt her pain. He knew her anguish, her every anxiety. This was the link. My Queen, I don't understand. If you break the link, how will I know if you come to harm? I must be able to find you at all times, no matter the circumstance.
In a better book, the idea of the body, like the very generic, like, Knight Protector bodyguard character, having an empathic link with the person that they're supposed to bodyguard could be very
Yeah, no, that is actually...
You could get a whole book out of
That's
that.
a pretty cool idea. I'm gonna, I'll give that up.
What's even more interesting is that you would have to rotate out the bodyguards because the empathic link would over time overrule both of their personalities and they would become one entity.
It's a possibility, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, like, if he feels her pain, then he slowly begins to identify with her and her feelings, and like,
stop writing a better book than the book that we're reading.
In time you will, Brother Seth. Even traditions that stem from ages past cannot remain forever. Soon it will be time to guard my own thoughts and my own being, just as the first queen had to do. Centuries ago we abandoned our ancestral homes. We fled to this barren land out of fear. We have lived in fear of repeating the past and only succeeded in repeating it.
A green land is a barren land. Okay.
You know what I really hope? I hope that Seth and Mark are the elves.
Oh my god, I do too.
That would be cool. Like, that would be cool. I would be all right with that.
I thought you were going to hope that I don't sing off-key Pogue songs on the podcast anymore.
It would also be cool if the elves were Clerks high people.
Just like stoned out of their gourd all the time.
Yeah.
Seth was confused, and the emotions he cast along with his words showed it. But my queen, you mustn't. You must direct your will to protect land and people. Shh, say no more. We are at High Hall.
What?
High Hall.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Hey, man, it's High Hall.
Bro, I was there when the strength of man failed.
We hung up on stoner elves.
Yeah.
Okay.
The two passed through the outer antechamber and entered High Hall.
Curse it into the fire.
Let's go to High Hall, dudes.
Seth remained at Queen Mother's side. He was pleased to see Brother Ryal seated behind Brother Samwyle.
What?
First of the Blue Order. Samyuehl.
That sounds like a knockoff Samwise.
It sounds like Samuel,
but just
with extra steps.
Extra steps, yeah. Cool.
He's the first of the Blue Order, apparently. Greetings, sent Seth to Ryal, guiding the thought solely to Ryal's mind. Seth had not seen Ryal since the two had been together under Samuel's tutelage, a time during which Seth had learned a great deal. Being of the Red Order meant that he had endured the 7 teachings as a member of each order, and the training with the Blue had been especially interesting.
Wait a minute. Being a member of the Red Order means he underwent the 7 teachings by the something other orders.
Yeah, why have separate orders if it's all one training process?
Maybe
what are we supposed to get out of that? Like, what does that mean ultimately for us and the characters?
Well, you can assume that the lowest level is violet.
Oh,
above that
ranks.
Is indigo.
Okay.
Blue. Green.
I didn't pick up on the fact
yellow,
that they were like belts in the martial
orange.
arts.
Neither did I.
I thought they were like different sects that did different things.
Also, I like the 7 teachings. And like, okay, all I have to say is the trial of the grasses, and immediately, like, anyone who knows anything about Witcher, it's like a overcast comes over when you mention the trial of the grasses,
right?
Or whatever it is. I think that's what it's called. I only played the games. I didn't read the books.
I don't know. Just as Queen Mother took her place and sent her own greetings to the foremost 6, each dressed in the appropriately colored robes of their order, yellow, brown, blue, black, white, and gray. So no, I was completely wrong. They just have arbitrary yellow, brown, blue, black, white, gray, and apparently red is the one that is the order above the rest of the orders.
Okay.
That's what I'm gleaning from this, that each of them is a specialized thing.
Right.
The Red Order is someone who has learned from all of them and then maybe has their own special teachings as well.
Okay.
Sure, they're the best of the best of the best of the best, sir.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're making more sense out of this than I was, so...
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Seth contemplated his long period of tutelage. He then turned to the long rows of cushioned pews to the left and right of the colorful 6, except that 3 of them are in black, white, and gray.
Mm-hmm. Not colorful at all.
Where the member and the rest of that, like, yellow, brown, blue, black, white, and gray.
Not
2 of them are colorful.
Yeah, they are arrayed in the colors of the fucking peacock. These fucking characters, in the middle of other things, just stopping and musing on their backstories, would work in a television show.
Right.
Because then you can have a flashback in the middle of another scene. It doesn't work in a book.
I mean, I guess it's kind of neat. There's something interesting in the world building here. Like, as much as I've knocked it the whole way through,
Mm-hmm.
it is... We now have established that there is a human kingdom
Mm-hmm.
that is vast and
great.
Great. And at war with the elves, or
Mm-hmm.
at least the enemy of the elves.
Right.
We've established that there is another kingdom, whether they are the elves or not, that has psychic powers.
Right.
And we've established that there's some kind of like order that is anti-magic.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, these things are all pretty cliche. This is like bog standard grim dark world building if you're going to be making a D&D campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I wouldn't be mad if I sat down at the table and this was my DM's like home game.
I mean, most of this is like, I can think of 10
Right.
television series or novel series off
Sure,
the top of my
yeah.
head that have at least some of those ideas baked in. But no, I don't disagree with you. Like, it's not terribly original, but there are, like, buried in the rotten fruit, there's the seed of a good story. Maybe some editing would have helped. Maybe it wouldn't have.
Right.
Here's the reason why I don't think editing would have helped. The writer shows a complete incompetence for self-restraint, which I think is absolutely necessary.
I agree.
For any form of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many editors you get. Well, actually, if you get enough editors, you can make anything awesome, but...
But at that point, they've just written a new book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my verdict.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So now we've basically established, and it doesn't look like there's much that happens moving forward from chapter 2 here, or chapter 1. You know, we've established who the 3 characters are. That's fine.
Right.
I don't care enough to go more through.
No, I'm done. So that sucked.
Oh my god.
That sucked hard. Jesus fucking Christ. I really want to just underline how much I hated that experience.
Oh, it was difficult.
It was a bad time.
It was literally difficult. Like, I was trying to pay attention, and my own thoughts were more interesting and coherent.
Just based on the thoughts that you say with your mouth, I like to imagine that your inner world is a journey.
I would like to say that I think that all of the reviewers on Goodreads were being kind.
Really? Because I thought they were fairly scathing.
Nope, they were being kind.
I will say that I am moderately interested to see, does this remain just them being kids the whole time? Do we jump forward in book 2 and they're like in their 20s, and then in book 3 they're old and wizened? Because that could be interesting.
Could it, though?
Are you really sure that would be interesting?
I said it
based
could
off
be.
Based off of what we know about this author already and how he writes. You're telling me that you would like to explore the other books in this series?
No, merely...
Another 650
Look,
pages
if we have
of this
to,
nonsense?
we'll read book 2 next.
All I'm saying is that I would rather pay $50 to have someone turn on a machine that just repeatedly punches me in the nuts.
And he just found out what those are.
If the options are read another one of these books or Kaine, find something to torture yourself with, I'm going to choose torture every time.
Is that because you're kind of a masochist?
No, I'm not a masochist. If I was a masochist, I would be like, please read more of this to me.
I just want to close with something that this writer said about himself in his biography that I didn't get to earlier. Like his forefather, which I don't know what the fuck that means in this context, Robert is a gifted and distinguished writer, a respected and skilled teacher, and someone who operates against the grain. By writing this generic as fuck swords and wizards novel, he's definitely pushing the boundaries of fucking literature.
I just want to let you guys know that I'm currently in the process of setting my house on fire with me in it.
Well, I think really
that's a good note to close on, I think.
I think we've belabored this. We have come to the conclusion that good Lord, this is not good.
No.
Could it be fun? Is it something that if you had a long bus trip, is this something that would be reasonable to read on a long bus trip? No,
my own thoughts are more coherent. And think about that for a minute.
And I'm trying to imagine, because what we're doing is kind of, for me, my experience similar to the audiobook in that I'm listening to someone read it, but I get the advantage of being able to scream at the person reading the book. Sitting down and listening to uninterrupted readings of this bullshit is something you would do to get information out of a prisoner. I can't imagine reading this or sitting through a recording.
Also, if my kid in junior high came to me with this and said, "Look what I did," I'd be like, "Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good." If my kid in high school said, I'd be like, "Yeah, it's all right." If my kid in college would be like, why are you still writing this? You haven't progressed at all as a writer.
I suspect you could get rid of about 50% of this.
Yeah, hire an editor. And that's not even if this were something that someone, an adult was just writing as a hobby, I'd be like, you need some editing, maybe keep practicing. This person published this and sold it for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really where you cross the line. Where what are you doing?
Yeah, if this was just like a novel that this guy just posts on his website, he wrote it because he likes writing. Then
Sure.
This would be pretty mean. But yeah, like what you said, he took people's money in exchange for this.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken so much of our time. So really, all that's left to say is be sure to follow us over there on Instagram and like us on all of the places. Like us on Facebook. Mm-hmm. You can comment on anything we post and start a conversation. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, where can I find those things?
At www.wegiveyoubrainworms.com. That's wegiveyoubrainworms.com.
And don't forget, if you want to support the show, again, obviously, liking us on all of our things, leaving reviews helps us out a lot. And if you want to support us in a monetary way, we have a Patreon.
Don't forget to slap the clap.
Always slap the clap.
Always do that stupid nonsense. What the fuck?
And Jesus Christ, we're sorry.
We're so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Jesus.
So that was...
Oh
that was
God.
Wow.
But we got almost 2 hours out of this bullshit.
I'm stopping the recording.
Yep.
This has been a production of Brainworms Presents. Any copyrighted content contained within is used for purposes of review. Brainworms Podcast is David Combs, Kaine Magdalen, Christian Schaefer, and Joseph Wells. The theme music is Hodgepod No. 1 by Brian Davis. If you like what you heard, you could support us and learn about our other projects at wegiveyoubrainworms.com or by leaving a review on your favorite listening app.